we have to live out the tenets of democracy, the principles of democracy. And one of the main characteristics of democracy, one of the main hallmarks is freedom of expression. And so people have to express themselves. And what I know is that this cannot last forever. It's just an attempt. And the voice of the people will continue to be the voice of God. You cannot keep people quiet forever. You cannot keep them silent forever. As long as some people have consciences. And one thing I also mentioned earlier is the fact that many of the people that were very outspoken before and are supposed to actually be at the forefront have been quieting one way or the other, and they are not speaking.
How do we challenge our brother CSOs?
I think some of those people should be called out. Honestly, the other time that Soyinka was called out, I think shortly after that he started becoming critical of Buhari. Yes, that is what I noticed. It was very controversial, and it took a lot of courage for that person to call Soyinka out, because Soyinka is a principality, it's a global principality. You don't just wake up and start calling him out. And that person was fought to like almost a standstill by so many people, so many Soyinka fans. But he had his reasons and he had points. And I think shortly after that he became critical. That was true. So I think we have to start calling people out. And part of why the government has succeeded is also a culture of corruption. People are easily corrupted with positions, with contracts. They'll just say, okay, you can become consultancy, you can become a consultant to government. It doesn't have to be a big political position. It's our culture of corruption. People are easily compromised. And so maybe we should be calling out those people. You have a Sowore that's been clamped into prison. You used to be a very active, vocal activist. You yourself have been in and out of prison under Abacha. And then you keep quiet. Each time people go to your wall on Facebook, you are showing you are in a party in Dubai, or you are organizing one Jankara solidarity somewhere that's no bearing with what is happening here. That's what's happening. I think some of these people should be called out. It may cost some people friendship, association, and all of that. But at the end of the day, I think posterity will be fair to people who still have consciences.
Thank you so much for that point. I'll be, focusing more on ourselves. Yesterday, 2 days ago, when the new NGO bill popped up on Twitter, perhaps I was one of the first people to see it. And immediately, in fact, I'm saying it, immediately I responded with budget handle, saying that each time you see the people raise their voice in making demands from the government, this is what follows. I don't know if anyone was able to save the tweet, but I did. Later I pulled it down. Why? Shehu Onigbide reached out to me that, no, at this point, we should not fight for CSOs. Because there have been a lot of instances, a lot of efforts by colleagues in the system trying to put in place at least some system of accountability. When these guys come after the civil society, the lacuna they explore is, okay, their finances. They are being funded by anti-state elements, people who are interested in toppling the government. Sometimes these are fabricated excuses or unfounded, but the moment they open your roof and everything is just messy, it's a big problem, especially on the note of finances. So a whole lot of us get funds, and to be very honest, I do not have an example, but I think what people say is we don't get to use these funds for the right things. Sometimes we see people enriching themselves, and before the government comes after you, they have at least one fact, something to hold on to. So in defense of others and in keeping the sanity of the entire space, what do you think we can do to be our own police first, before the government comes to explore that loophole in shutting down the entire system, what can we do to breathe transparency and accountability into the civic space?
I really agree that there's need for more transparency and accountability in the NGO space in Nigeria, financial accountability. Many of the NGOs that I know, the woman is a president, chief executive director, the husband is the deputy president, the son is the accountant, and the daughter is the admin manager.
At World Bank?
And I'm not exaggerating.
Is that yes. A private organization or
NGO?
NGO. Okay.
Yeah. It's so odd, but people do it without any qualms. They don't think they are accountable to anybody. I was a fellow of an NGO in US about 13 years ago when I was a journalist. And the president of the NGO was named after a Jewish American journalist that reported during the Second World War. Very brave and talented journalist. I was a reporter with the Washington Post, Afro Friendly. His son was the president for so many years. Right now, I don't think his son is even on the board of that NGO. There was a major event about a week ago in Washington, and when they sent us the report, I did not even see the son's name anywhere. I don't even know whether he wasn't invited to the event. I don't know. The son of the person in whose name that NGO was established. They've moved the NGO now from Washington, D.C. to Missouri. And it's being controlled by entirely new faces. So there's nothing in the developed world where the systems work. There's nothing like family connection. NGO, when you run an NGO, all the funds and everything is held in trust for the people. It's not your personal funding. But in Nigeria, many people are not able to create a divide, differentiate between personal funding and NGO funding. So as in the NGO community, I think we really have to call ourselves to order. When the NGO bill came up some years ago, I put up a tweet and I said, I think there's need for internal cleansing, that many of the NGOs are not accountable. And a senior colleague reached out to me and said, Betty, please don't say that again. He said, please don't say that again. It's not good. It's not good for you to be seen as if you are fighting the NGOs, because there's a major war against NGOs globally. But I was saying the truth. So I said, okay, thank you, sir. But I think we really need some internal cleansing. He did not respond till today. But I didn't put down the tweets, because that's my opinion. So I think we really need to put our houses in order. I was telling someone just earlier today, I think a friend, but just earlier today, that NGOs in countries as small as Liberia, Ghana, get more fundings than we in Nigeria. They do. They do. I've been running Sea Hope for, by December, will be 6 years. If I were running it in Kenya or Ghana or Liberia, we would be in almost all the states in Nigeria. We've been given they've done documentaries about us. Earlier this year, BBC World came to Makoko to do a documentary about us. They've come from Germany to do documentaries about us. We've been covered all over the world. So we're supposed to attract a lot of funding. But the reverse is the case. Because when they come and say, okay, but this one is in Nigeria, they just run back. So we are actually victims of the general stigma of the NGOs in Nigeria because of how some people, not all, run their NGOs. They've worked with a few people and they say that they're not accountable. I don't really believe that Nigerians are born corrupt. It's because the system allows it. I just mentioned earlier that some of the people doing these things in the UNDP, in the UN, are actually white people. That senior friend that spoke to me, unfortunately, is dead now. He said there is another international NGO from UK. And he said there was a white man in the Abuja office. They have a Lagos office, they have Abuja office. And I mean, they get like sometimes billions, several millions of pounds every year. It's a lot of money. I don't want to mention that name. Because I'm still fighting with you, and let me finish that battle, then I'll move on to other people. He said there was a white man. That man will call him and say, there's a project coming up. Write this proposal, write it this way, and send it to me. Before the project is announced, they already know who they are going to give it to. And this is a white man. And there is no way he will do this in Britain. There is no way he was going to do this in UK. It's not possible because the system doesn't allow for it. You run an NGO, you don't even have access to the money. It's the accountant that has the full detail. And you don't even have the check. When there's a need, the accountant will write the check. Then you sign, and other people will co-sign it. Every single expenses is budgeted, is accounted for. You just collect your salary. And when you are traveling, you collect your allowances. Even as a founder of the NGO. But today in Nigeria, most times if you found an NGO, all the money is sitting under the pillow, basically, under you. Or you put it in your pocket and you're just giving to people. That's what I see sometimes. Everything is in your pocket. You are the founder, you are the executive director, you are the accountant, you are the admin manager, you are the auditor as well. So it's the system. It's not as if people are born corrupt or anything. There are things people, even Nigerians, they do here, and then when they go abroad, they are so disciplined, they cannot try it there. So it's the system. If we work on the system, I think people will be more transparent. And like some of my senior colleagues have said, in response to the NGO bill, let this cleansing begin inwardly. We are the ones that know ourselves. We'll be able to build a better system of accountability. It's not the government that will impose it. Because most time when they are imposing it, they have ulterior motives. They want to clamp down, they want to clamp down on the spaces. So let the system, let the cleansing begin from within the NGO, not external, with all the consequences. So I think it's because the system is not in place. There are no checks and balances. But I think gradually we'll get there. It's just a matter of time. You had this CAC, this thing that happened some years ago about churches not being tenured. People are life president. They run it, and then after they die, their wives take over or their children take over. It should not be so. Churches in the West operate under the same laws that run the NGO. Churches run like NGOs. Everything you have is held in trust. You know, one very popular pastor had issues some years ago because they said he bought an expensive jacket. And then that the books that he wrote, that he was collecting the money. Even as a pastor, you write a book, the proceeds doesn't go to you. Because it's supposed to be your sermons that you preach in the church. So everything monetary, because it's supposed to be a non-profit. So everything that comes into it should go back into the running of the organization. But in Nigeria, that doesn't happen. So some of them operate like double lives. What operates in their churches abroad is not the same system that operates in their churches here. And I'm not really here to talk about churches, but we don't have very strong institutions. We only have very strong individuals. So we need to strengthen the institution. We need to strengthen the accountability system, whether they are as pertains to NGO or to churches. Lagos State government, the internally generated revenue of Lagos State government is more than those of 33 states in Nigeria combined. Lagos is super rich, but it doesn't reflect in the lives of the citizens. As far as I know, there's basically no social welfare plan in the Lagos State government. You cannot point at an old people's home and say this is run by Lagos State government, in spite of its aging population and the displacement of so many old people. There are families that are displaced and in their needs. There's nowhere to run to in Alausa and say, can you help? At least people that really need help to just stay alive, basic needs. And I have an agency in Lagos State government. From time to time, they will call me and say, Betty, please, there is an urgent need. There's a family that just is displaced. They've not eaten in the last 3 days. Fire burned down their house. All kinds of stories. Can you help? Then I will send our project officer. She take 5,000 to them, 10,000 to them. After some time, I said, but we are just a small NGO. and you are a big government, you have all the money in the world. This is just the facts. There is no social welfare. Even some of the offices, what is voted into some of the agencies, they cannot account for it. And so government has a responsibility to meet the needs of the citizen, at least to an extent, before the NGOs can come in. But they are not meeting those needs. They're just not interested.